Hey guys, welcome to Real Life School Podcast. Today I got a good friend and a business owner, Nathan Marmor. I've known you for a long time. Thank you for having you on the show. And we're going to talk about entrepreneurship. Okay, there's a ton of people that are hungry out there looking for new opportunities. They understand like maybe the corporate job isn't a fit for them. And I just wanted to bring you in and just talk about your story, how long you've been doing it, and a few like tips and lessons and stuff for other people that want to learn from somebody that's been there and done it. Like right. That's what we do here. We bring in people that are experts, that love it, that are, you know, their attitudes are contagious, and we feed it to the people that are hungry to learn it. So
I love it.
Yeah, goal today is talk about entrepreneurship, dude.
Let's do it.
And what better way than I just want to know how you got into it. I know we went to college.
We did.
And there's a little bit less memories in some areas than others, but how did you get into CertaPro Painters, and what was that journey like?
Yeah, my journey was interesting. So when I was in college, I worked for Sherwin-Williams.
Okay.
My dad worked for large companies his whole life, and so I kind of thought I'd head down that corporate America path. Worked for Sherwin. I actually got offered an opportunity to go to their management training program, and right around that time, a franchise owner in town said, "Hey, are you sure you want to go to corporate America? Come grab a coffee with me." So we sat down and had coffee,
okay.
And the next day I turned in my 2 weeks notice that I was leaving Sherwin-Williams and I was going to go work for this franchise.
Okay.
Right around that same time period, my dad was looking to make the exit out of corporate America. So
okay.
I said, "Hey, I've got a great idea. I work for this franchise. They have more available. Let's buy one together." And within about 6 months to a year, we purchased a territory, and the rest is kind of history.
What do you mean a territory? What does that mean?
Yeah, so most franchises are divided up depending on what type of a franchise you're in, which, man, there's everything. You know, everything from McDonald's to a Subway to something like that to things like a CertaPro Painters, a Roto-Rooters, things of that nature, right? So there's all kinds of things. So CertaPro, the way that we divide our territories are by residential zip codes.
Okay.
So at that time, we bought a section of residential zip codes in the Phoenix marketplace, and that's where we were allowed to market residentially.
Okay.
So whether it's our direct mail or whatever, and so that's what we originally purchased through CertaPro.
So when you bought the territory, that means, hey, you said zip code, right? So you couldn't go outside the zip code because that's technically not your territory.
I couldn't market out of my zip code. Now, technically, the other franchise owner has first right of refusal if it was a residential lead.
Uh-huh.
If someone from my territory said, "Hey, my mom lives across town. I want you to go paint for my mom," I would technically have to ask for permission to go work in their territory.
You just say, "Hey, man, do you mind if I got this lead? Do you mind if I take it? If
Correct.
not, would you like?
If not, would you like to take it?"
Copy. Yeah. Okay, that's what that means.
So that's how it is residentially. Now, commercially, I can technically work nationwide.
Okay.
So we can do jobs. We typically stick mostly in the Arizona marketplace, but we've dabbled outside here and there depending on what the project is.
Dude, that's huge. So, okay, quick recap how you started. In college, working for Sherwin-Williams, somebody was like, "Hey, dude, I just want to buy you a cup of coffee, talk about, you know, an opportunity."
Yep.
And you're like, "Dude, I love the opportunity." Quit with Sherwin-Williams and then looked into buying a territory here in the Phoenix area. Yep. And that territory was zip codes. What was the first? Was it like one zip code? Or?
It was actually like 36 zip codes, I think, is what we originally purchased.
For one territory?
For one territory.
Dude,
correct.
No kidding.
I mean, Phoenix is a major metro. So I think that at that time, there was 7 or 8 total territories available, but it was the last one that no one had ever owned ever before.
Okay.
So it was a brand new territory.
Fresh.
It was fresh.
And baby.
That's what we were looking for, something that was fresh. And so that's where my dad and I set out on that journey.
Okay.
Now, my dad's plan was to really be in the business for about the first 3 years.
Okay.
My dad's a scientist by trade, so science is very black and white.
Yeah.
And business, I believe, is very gray. There's lots of like...
Sure is.
It's all gray. And so while my dad was great at some aspects, I think the business was really stressful for him.
Really?
Because of being in that gray zone, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't a formula. And so although we had a roadmap, the roadmap is still gray, right? There,
yeah.
It's kind of like create those own journey books where, you know, like turn to page 6 if you want to do this. That's kind of what being a business owner is, right? Like it's a little bit of experimentation. Sure. So about 3 years into the business, my dad was looking to exit. And so he went back consulting as a scientist.
Okay.
And then in 2012, my now wife, Jen, and I bought my parents out of the business completely, and Jen and I have owned and operated the business together since the end of 2012.
Dude, power team, husband, wife, just knocking it out.
Yeah, really, she is the brains and the beauty. I'm not really sure what I bring to the business. I guess the experience.
Sure.
It's true.
That's
it's true.
awesome, though. Powerhouse. So you and your spouse joined together,
Yes.
and you guys were able to not only have a successful marriage, but also a successful business.
Yes. And being married and in business together.
Holy smokes.
I mean, you could do 100 podcast episodes on that,
dude,
because that's a whole nother ballgame.
My wife's coming in tomorrow, and we're going to talk about marriage, military, spouse, mom. It's going to be just insane. Stand by for that one tomorrow. By the way, that's my plug.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, but successful, right? You
Yes.
guys managed to do it. Did you guys have any baselines, rules, expectations up front when you're like, listen, I love you, you're my wife, but we're about to do this thing called business? How did you guys manage that?
Probably not right away. We probably should have. The first couple years, it was really feeling out like there were some gender roles, right? Like, well, I'm the male, and I had been in the business longer, and so I should run this. I should be in charge, and you should go sell. Well, we very quickly learned that I was not great at running the business. I was much better at being out with the customers and selling and stuff. And so I think there's a lot of that where you kind of have to work together and see what fits and what fits best for your business. And that was definitely the first big, like, oh wow, where are we going? And then we started to snowball and grow. And so then roles became even more important. And even today, roles have continued to be important on where does the buck stop, who makes the decisions. We both run different divisions in our business now. And so we have to be very careful about staying out of each other's way while supporting each other. Because it can get a little convoluted sometimes.
Sure. Before we get into the financing, how did you guys establish those roles? So it's like, moral of the story, were you able to turn it off between work during the day and then come home? How did you do that? Because, you know, there's a lot of people that are trying to maximize their efforts. Obviously, they spend a lot of time with their wife. They love them. But not always is it easy to go into business with them. So how did you guys work through that?
Yeah, turning it off is definitely hard. It's harder for me than it is for Jen. Jen's a lot better at turning it off. I don't know why that. I just think everyone's wired a little bit differently.
Yep.
I wish I could tell you that all the time it was like, oh, we're home, and so let's forget about the business. That's unrealistic, right? Like, this is how we pay our bills. This is our life.
This is our life,
right?
Yeah,
like
dude.
Everything is wrapped around this, and so there's definitely some bleed through here and there. We try to be really good about when one of us needs the boundary set to say, like, I need to pause on work today, or hey, for this dinner, can we not talk about work? And you have to respect the other person's thing, because otherwise it can get really messy, especially if your entire relationship just turns into work.
Oh yeah, man.
So you have to still have that relationship with your spouse, especially if you're working together, very intertwined in the business as well.
Sure. Well, you guys have been doing it for 18 years.
Yep.
Solid partnership. You guys have just been crushing it here in the Valley. You're all over the social media. I mean, how many territories do you guys have now?
So we're actually, from what we started at one, we're now a multi-franchise owner. So we own 3 territories here in the Phoenix marketplace.
Okay.
So in 2020, we added another territory of someone that was looking to get out of the CertaPro business. And then in 21, we added a third. And that one was an owner that had been around for about 24 years and was looking to retire. And so we purchased his territory as well.
Bottom out.
Yep, bottom out.
Okay.
So now we're at three territories.
Dude, that's awesome.
3 territories, 3 franchise agreements, 3 terms on our franchise agreements, because some of them were continuous from when we bought them.
Got it.
So yeah.
Okay, so for the viewers, this is what we talked about, and I want to make sure that we cover it. Financing, startup costs. So if I'm somebody that's motivated, understands the corporate world, cubicle job, it ain't for everybody.
No.
Okay. And if you're looking to venture into, whether it's a CertaPro Painters, a McDonald's, a whatever, right? What is the process? What does it cost? Can you dive into that real quick?
Sure. So definitely every franchise, no matter what, is going to have some sort of a franchise fee. So that's the upfront fee. That's basically the pay to play. Some of them will have a technology fee associated with it, basically you buying the technology that's associated with the business. There's going to be some sort of an upfront fee.
Okay.
And I think those can range anywhere from the low thousands of dollars to upwards of, I have to assume, in the millions of dollars. If you're buying a McDonald's, I have to assume, has a larger buy-in fee than, something that's a new to market type. In addition to that, you're going to have some sort of a royalty structure.
Okay. What's that?
So that's going to be your ongoing fees. So based on most of the time, I believe that they're on top line revenue. That's what mine is.
Top line revenue.
So for every dollar I take, CertaPro gets a percentage of that for me to continue to operate under the CertaPro name.
Got it.
Now, with that comes, I have a great corporate structure, I have to say, for our corporate team. We have general managers. I get training. I get training for my sales associates, production associates. I get all kinds of programs. I believe that my royalties are worth it. But I would definitely encourage anyone to look at what their royalty structure is, because those fees, they don't go away. And those fees, they don't matter if you made money or not. They're not based on bottom line. They're on top line revenue.
Got it. What's the difference between bottom line and top line?
So top line is basically what you first put in the bank. Bottom line is what's still in the bank after you've paid out all of your other bills.
Got it. So, hey, I paid out all my debt, my loans, etc., and this is what I have left over. That's bottom line.
That's what you actually make.
Hey, this paint job cost me $100,000, right? And that's what you're going to be paying your royalty on. It
Correct.
Didn't cost what you paid in labor, advertising to acquire that job.
Right. My royalty is based on the check that my customer writes to us for services rendered.
Got it. That's good. And back to the royalty thing, the support team. It's kind of like taxes.
Yep.
All right. Here we go.
Oh.
Right, here we go.
Yeah.
Everybody's paying taxes.
Everybody.
Right? And you don't get to choose where those taxes go, right?
No.
If it was us, it'd be like, I'd like to go to roads, I'd like to school. For you, your royalty goes to a support system.
They do.
So marketing team, managerial team, some support, and also training for your staff.
Yep.
So that's part of the royalty fees. Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's fantastic. And I talk to other entrepreneurs or other franchise owners, and some are really happy with their royalty structure, some aren't. So I would always encourage people to vet out that royalty structure. And most of the time, as you're looking to buy a franchise, you'll get to do some due diligence.
Yeah.
Where they will actually have you talk to current franchise owners in people's system.
Love that.
That's where you can really find out how people feel about stuff.
So when you buy a franchise, are you due diligence period for real estate? When I go buy a home, I have an inspection period. I got all these things that I get to look into before I actually close escrow. The same thing sounds like it applies when you're purchasing a franchise.
Yeah, and there are some laws that actually roll around that. Like, you have to be able to have the actual legal verbiage. I mean, they're like textbooks, so get ready if you're going to read but it's every single piece that your franchise is bound by state law, federal law, depending on, so certain things are for certain states, depending on what state you live in. But you have to, for X amount of days, I don't remember what it is right now, you have to be able to have that in your possession to be able to look through before you're even legally allowed to sign a franchise agreement.
Got it.
That way,
makes sense.
that way, at least you've had enough time to vet through the process.
Makes sense. Same thing when you're buying a piece of real estate. You got to get your HOA docs so you can see, hey, before I commit to owning this piece of property, I need to know what strings are attached on that property.
Yes.
Same thing applies.
Exact same thing.
Okay, got it. What else? So you got the franchise fee. That's up front,
yep.
right? Okay.
Then you got the royalty fees. Those are ongoing.
Okay.
In our franchise, and I have to assume most others, we have another fee that we pay into, which is our general advertising fund. That is what goes back to buy a lot of our media. So like for CertaPro specific, what that goes to is like Sirius XM radio, some of my TV ads that are on in town, some of our national buys that a single point operator couldn't necessarily purchase.
Okay.
So I have that as well. And then because I'm in a major metropolitan, I also pay into a co-op advertising fund.
Okay.
So that funds a lot of our local radio, some of my local pay-per-click and things like that make a lot more sense as part of a brand that has, there are 5 other franchise owners here in the Phoenix marketplace.
Yep.
So that money all goes into a pot that the 5 of us do buys out of.
Got it.
So that I got to vote on. I have some say in that. We also have say on where that money goes. So my co-op votes every year on how we spend that.
Cool.
So that's a nice one because it's like getting that money to be able to make bigger purchases that maybe a single point paint owner couldn't make in a marketplace because I have the collective of 5.
So just to clarify, it's GAF, General Advertising
Fund. Yep.
Okay, so that is part of and included in the royalties, or is it separate?
It is not. They're separate.
Okay, so you got the royalty that's ongoing and the GAF.
Then GAF, and then certain marketplaces will have a co-op on top of that. So there are really 3 fees.
Okay.
I don't as much count the co-op because the co-op, I get some say in where the funds go, whereas the other 2, I don't so much.
Copy.
I would say that our franchise is very receptive to feedback. And so being able to give direct feedback, both Jen and I have sat on advisory boards for our franchise organization, where we were basically the voice of the franchisees, where we would sit in front of the franchisor multiple times a year, giving them feedback, helping give them direction and input.
You're the voice of all the other franchise. Like you, when you were starting out, you would go to somebody like you now.
Correct.
Who is like, listen, I like this, I don't like this, and here's why.
Correct.
Oh, wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's like board of directors or
Correct.
Right. That's
and
awesome.
It's nice that they listen. They don't have to heed our advice, right?
Sure.
At the end of the day, they are still a company themselves, our corporate team is. But at least they're listening to our advice at the end of the day.
Dude, that's awesome. Okay, so yeah, you want to start it in a franchise. There's some fees up front, franchise fee, royalty, and then the gaff.
Right.
But it sounds like that support structure specific to CertaPro Painters.
Correct.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I have a roadmap, right? We have this thing called the path, and the path kind of shows me where I should be revenue-wise, what types of staff I should hire, when should I hire them, and how are they going to help me grow my business.
Dude.
So it was fantastic.
Yeah, so you don't just buy in and just expect to figure it out. Like the whole, guest services, customer service, support systems, all that other stuff goes into boosting you, because when you succeed, CertaPro Painters succeed.
Correct. And
that's awesome.
The saying that they have a lot of the times is that you're in business for yourself, not by yourself. So that's one of the great benefits of being a part of a franchise network.
That's catchy.
Yeah.
I dig it, man.
My guess is they market that everywhere when they sell a franchise.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, real quick, I got a sponsor here, and it's Limitless Healing with Colette, and she has allowed to come in and give us a tip for this week. So, hey, Colette, are you here? Are you there?
Thank you, Tyler. Here's tip number 1. We can agree that we all have stress in our lives, and short term, it's okay because it increases productivity, focus, and we can get things done. However, if that's continued on long term, it can be detrimental as the body is overloaded in cortisol. And a long-term effect of cortisol in the body is heart disease, diabetes, hypothyroidism, and autoimmune disorder. So how do we control it? We can look at the things in our lives and we can see how we can reduce stress on a daily basis. Here's a breathing tip that you can do every day, wherever you're at, to help reduce stress. It's called box breathing. And what we're going to do is we're going to inhale for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, exhale for 5 seconds, and evacuate, meaning do not inhale and do not exhale. So here we go. We're going to inhale for 5, hold for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, and evacuate 2, 3, 4, 5. You can try this from wherever you're at. Repeat it at least 5 times and teach it to your children, to your friends, and it will absolutely help you gain a little more control and mindfulness in the body and help to reduce that stress level.
Hey, Colette, that's awesome feedback. I've used that box breathing before, going through military and some unique scenarios.
I can imagine.
Yeah, dude. Breathe in, hold it, breathe out, hold it, and do that for repetition. Colette, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that. And being a young entrepreneur or startup company, it's always going to be stressful.
Always.
Right? So I appreciate that. Real quick, people want to know habit patterns, way of life. We know that you're married, you got kids, but you're also extremely successful here in the Valley. What does your habit pattern and your daily routine look like? Like today, what's today? Is today Monday?
I think it's Monday.
Today is Monday. Okay. Shooey.
I believe so.
What does a Monday look like for you?
So I can give you a couple of scenarios.
Okay.
My ideal day. And I can tell you that when I'm better about my habits, my days go better.
Okay.
I know they do. So typically first thing in the morning, I've got to clear my headspace. So my headspace is typically checking my texts and my emails for any first thing fires.
Okay.
I know a lot of people say that you shouldn't, but for me, I'll have anxiety otherwise of thinking about, is there anything that I need to jump on top of? And if I do, then I can just knock it out real quick before I do it.
Copy. Like right off the bat, right when you get up.
Right off the bat. I try to get out of the bedroom first into the main area, start my coffee, and then I'll look at my phone while the coffee's starting to make.
Okay, cool.
So that's very typical. I'll knock out any hot items right there.
Okay.
One of my favorite things to do in the morning is I drive my daughter to school about 90% of the time.
Do you really?
I do, yeah. Probably about 90% of the time. I like to be able to get her up, get her ready, and drive her to school. That time in the car to me it's super special. Yeah. She tends to open up a little bit. She's not much of a morning person.
Sure.
But if I can get her opened up and get a little food in her, that time between our house and school, it's only like 8 to 12 minutes.
Sure.
But I really enjoy that time.
Yeah, man.
So by then I've knocked out some of my quick to-dos. I've cleared the inbox, right? I've taken care of anything hot. I've got Alice off to school. If I can get back home, walk the dog or get a workout in, my day will be 100% more on track for me to be successful.
Okay.
So I try not to set my meetings until after I have something to do. Now, the reality is I'm a small business owner.
Yeah.
This morning, I needed to go meet with a customer. So that meant that Jen took Alice to school today and that I had to go meet with the customer. So again, is it perfect all the time? No. But I can tell you that when I get that morning piece where I've kind of knocked out some things, I take her to school, and then I get to get some sort of a workout or walk the dog, get outside, podcast, whatever it is, man, my day is so much better.
Okay.
Then typically I'm in the office.
Okay.
I try to get some of my meetings knocked out, whether that's meeting with any of my direct reports, looking to see how things are going. I'm old school. I bring my lunch to work pretty much every day.
You, man. Saving money, by the way. Saving money.
We joke about it all the time. When anyone new comes to work for us, like the first week, they're like, oh, I'm going to run out and get lunch. And then they start to see that everybody kind of brings their lunch to the office. So it's always funny to watch this transition of people when they come work for us. But
culture, habit.
But I still like bringing my lunch every day. Then I kind of control what I put in my body. And I don't really like to take a break. I never did. So I try to eat while I kind of work through things, whether it's on video calls or I'm meeting with people in person. And then I try to then also pick Alice up. Our daughter's pretty active, so whether it's dropping her off at gymnastics and things like that. Jen is much more, she needs a slow morning to get started.
Okay.
So I'm better about jumping off in the morning and then being able to exit our business earlier in the evening. And then Jen kind of takes that from mid-morning into the evening. So Jen will tend to work later nights if we have to.
Okay.
But the other thing is, because it's my spouse, we have to communicate if one of us needs to work late.
Sure.
Because sometimes there's just work that's got to get done, and sometimes the best time to get that work done is when nobody else is in the office and the emails stop coming through.
Right.
So we'll try to do that. I work a lot better from home as well, too, sometimes. I've noticed that I tend to be a little bit of a distraction for people. Surprising, I know. So some of the time now I'll try to work from home to knock out any of my quote-unquote busy work, whether I'm right now, we're really big in trying to put like processes instead of people. Because as we've grown, we've just had really great people.
Yeah.
So now I'm having to write all these SOPs for our business. And so taking that time to sit down and write them, I need quiet.
Yeah,
I need just me. I don't need the distractions. Because if a bird chirps outside, I'm like, oh, is that what kind of a bird was that?
Yeah, I'm a bird man too, so I totally get it, man. Common nighthawks in northern Scottsdale is great.
Yeah, so that's kind of a piece of it. But I think one of the biggest things is making sure that you have some sort of a routine, because I can tell you that over the years, it's really easy to let myself run down. And I have found the last few years, I've really focused on making sure that I'm taken care of and my cup's full.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not feeling fulfilled, or if I don't have that me time, everything else is going to suffer.
Oh, man,
I'm going to be irritable towards people. I'm going to be irritable towards clients.
Yep.
My wife may take the brash of some of that as well. And man, that's not fair to anybody else. No. And so the last couple of years, I've tried to really focus on getting that me time in. One of the most impactful things that I did early on with CertaPro is I took a priority management class. Okay. And I remember going to it and thinking, oh man, they're going to tell me how to like be really good at putting things in my calendar and all these work meetings and how to stack them. And maybe it's 50-minute meetings. And that's what I was ready for. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
It was all about putting all the personal stuff in my calendar and then building all the rest of it around it.
Yeah.
Because if those things aren't prioritized, they're going to fall to the wayside.
Right.
And it's true. If I don't have that time blocked off to put my mind right, I'm going to fill it with other time.
Totally.
So does it mean that sometimes I got to wake up earlier or stay up earlier than everyone else in my family? It does. But that sacrifice is well worth it for me to be just a better human, and I think a better leader in the business, better husband, better father, et cetera. Because if one of those things is off, all the others are going to suffer no matter
effect,
what. Absolutely.
For sure, man.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. I love that, man. You drive your daughter to school and then you get a workout in, then you crank. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So top 3 takeaways for the last 18 years with CertaPro?
It'll be 18 years. I guess that's good. Well, it's almost 19 or 20 years with CertaPro, because it'll be 19 years with CertaPro because I worked for them before I owned.
Okay.
And we'll be 18 years in business this year from when my dad and I first started it.
So a young entrepreneur, you're an expert, right? There's a lot of surveys and, data that's like 1,000 hours, 10,000 hours, 10 years, 15 years. You're an expert. You know the franchise. You've sat on the board. You are bona fide. You're qualified. So
been around the block.
Yeah, you have. Yeah. Young entrepreneur is trying to, if they just had one snippet, what are the 3 takeaways from the last 18 years of being with CertaPro Painters?
So probably the biggest one, and the one I'm still trying to work on for myself, is you've got to put you first.
Okay.
Because if your head's not right, whether that's mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, if you're not in the right place, everything else is going to suffer.
Amen.
Your family, your business, everything.
Yep.
So you have to figure out what's right for you. And man, it's different for everybody. There's no one right book on it.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in reading all kinds of stuff and then figuring out what works for you. But I think you've got to put you first, because if you're not, you're going to have bigger issues down the line. So I'm a huge believer on that. Man, probably one of the other ones is to genuinely believe in what you do.
Okay. What do you mean?
That took a little bit. Like when I first started working for CertaPro or even owning CertaPro, I couldn't necessarily afford CertaPro.
Yeah.
Right. So I was out there having to hustle this brand, this opportunity that I couldn't necessarily afford or I didn't quite understand. But now that I've taken this time in my business and I really understand, I 100% believe that we are the best choice for people when they need painting done.
Yeah.
Does that mean that everyone's going to choose me? The answer is no. But at the end of the day, do I feel that we have the best product out there, that we put our best foot forward, that our business will work harder for you and do more for you? I really do. And so that's something is you have to believe in what you're doing each and every day.
Concur. Absolutely.
And then I think the other big one is having integrity. Like our names, Jen and I's name, the legacy that we're leaving, our names are tied to this business. That's all we have. And karma is real. So, but trust me. So if you have that integrity and you use that as your barometer for everything that you do in business, and does that mean that you're always going to make the best business decisions? We're still humans, right? At the end of the day. But man, if you can own up to stuff and you can be real and you have integrity, I wholly believe that'll put people on the right path.
Yeah, that's solid, man. Hey, can you think of just one topic where there was some adversity or there was conflict and how you handled it? Like the one cringeworthy moment in your time. Do you have one?
Well, I think so. Anytime I have to go onto a job site these days, it's typically because there's a customer feels that there's an issue, right? Like the reality is I'm not on most job sites, nor is Jen on most job sites these days, because we've built an amazing team around us that handle things.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that speaks volumes about us is both Jen and I at some point have been on a job site where you go in ready to defend our team, right? Like I'm ready to tell the customer like, hey, I'm sorry, but this is absolutely above industry standards. It's above what we agreed to. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do. I'm here to tell you I'm sorry, but
Yep.
there's nothing that we can do.
Yep.
And I think I've walked in, and these are very few. I mean, maybe once or twice, but being able to walk in and go, oh, geez, I'm unsatisfied with this. I didn't realize this is what we did. And looking at the customer being like, I came here today prepared to be like, hey, I'm so sorry that this is how you felt, but we exceeded standards, and going, hey, I'm so sorry that this happened. We're going to make it right.
We're going to fix
it right now.
Yeah, I love that.
I always say everyone's a great contractor until things go wrong. And that's when you really see who the good contractors are, because everybody's good when everything's all peachy.
Oh yeah, man.
But it's if something goes a little bit sideways, how do you respond to it? So I think that comes back to the integrity piece, right? Like I'm never going to tell someone that something looks good or that it meets or exceeds standards if I don't actually believe it myself. Even if that means it's going to cost me some money to fix it and do it right.
Yeah, that comes with the industry standard because you've been doing it for so long. You're able to pick up on it and be like,
Absolutely.
the sniff test, right?
Absolutely.
Is it good? Is it not good? And by the way, we screwed this up. We're going to take care of it.
Yes.
And you know that how people handle conflict long term creates generational business.
Oh, and conflict's everywhere. I mean,
man.
In your personal relationship, I mean, we talked earlier about family balance and stuff, but like people that say that marriage is easy, et cetera, it's not. And marriage has a lot of conflict in it. And I think the more you can have that healthy conflict and those healthy conversations, that just bleeds over into every part of your business. If you can't have that healthy conflict, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Have it.
We got a podcast dropping here on marriage and military spouses and deployments, but we're going to touch on it. I mean, we could do so many different series on just marriage, balance, communication, so on and so forth. That's awesome though. Top 3. That's good. I got a few questions that came in rapid fire.
Absolutely.
All right. You still good?
I'm good.
All right, man. So how does someone choose which franchise industry to enter? Kind of broad, but
That's broad because there's everything out there from dog walking businesses to restaurants, et cetera.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a weird, unique perspective. So this year, the International Franchising Association's conference was actually here in Phoenix. So
Cool.
Jen and I had the opportunity to attend with part of our corporate team. So I got to meet a whole bunch of people from that realm. There are entire businesses out there that will help you vet and choose the right business for you. So they'll kind of sit down. They have questionnaires. They have things that they'll talk to you about. And they'll lay out 5 businesses that they feel kind of meet the lifestyle or what you're looking for or your skill set.
Yeah.
If you don't like those, then they'll bring you 5 more. And it's kind of this almost dating app for franchises, and there's lots of services out there for people that are interested.
So how does somebody go about that? Would they Google that, like franchise picker or speed dating for franchise?
Probably not speed dating for franchises, because that would probably bring up some sort of weird app that you can now download for franchise owners that are single and looking for something. Yeah, I mean, I would guess that if you just Google like what franchise is right for me, my guess is they love those Google keywords.
Yeah, they do. The SEO, man, by the way. Oh, yeah. Okay, next question. What's a typical buy-in for a franchise? And I'm sure this is going to be totally situational.
It's going to be totally situational. My gut tells me, so ours was around $50,000 when I first bought in.
Okay.
I'm positive that it's gone up to this day, but I don't know exactly what it's gone up to. So ours was around $50,000 is what it is. Okay. My guess is they have them everywhere from low floors, because anything with a low entry is probably going to have a higher royalty structure, would be my guess, up to probably upwards of $1 million.
Okay.
In addition to your buy-in, you're always going to want to have some sort of cash, though, too, because obviously businesses cost money to get off the ground, marketing, capital, payroll, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So there's always going to be something in there. So a lot of times, although they'll have just here's what you owe for your initial buy-in, here's how much cash we want available to you.
Got it.
When you buy in.
Because they've done it before. They're kind of just guiding. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and most franchises, I believe, have certain avenues through SBA lending. There's a lot of 401k things that you can do depending on where you are in your stage of life to get into some of those businesses.
Got it. Okay. Would you do it over again?
What day of the week is it we said again? It's Monday.
I think it's Monday.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, like I told you, Jen and I have added additional businesses. My guess is I could never go work for somebody anymore. Like, I've been ruined in that aspect.
Same.
But I also don't know that I would. Like, we're in control of our destiny, and I love that.
Yeah, man.
Like, one of the every once in a while, right? It'll get hard, and Jen and I will sit on the couch tonight, and we'll look at each other, and we're like, this is why we own the business, right? Like, we're going to figure it out, and you can't let the little things stress you. But I would do it again, and we'll probably be entrepreneurs in some way, shape, or form for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, man. You've just created a good culture inside your team. You can totally feel it. It's awesome, dude. Okay. What does it say here? Somebody graduated college. Would you advise them to jump right in and buy a portion or franchise?
So that's an interesting question. I've had the opportunity the last couple of years to sit on these. It's called a forum group, and so it's a group of new business owners of CertaPro specifically, and they're of ranging size. And it's interesting because for a long time, CertaPro's model, and I think a lot of franchises, is people go away and they work for corporate America for a few years, and they decide it's not for them. When I say a few years, like the average franchisee at one point was like 50 years old or so, right? Like, these were second careers for most people. That they were tired of working for corporate America, and so they were looking for a change. They wanted to be their own boss. I'm starting to see a change of a lot younger people coming to work. So even if it's not jumping straight into being a franchise owner, it could be going to work for a franchise. We've had a ton of franchises lately where people have worked for them, and then they've bought out their franchisee, and now they own the business. And man, the growth potential of some of those businesses have been awesome to watch.
Really?
Some of my good friends have bought out what were very successful businesses already, and have just, we're talking doubling, tripling the revenue, because I think sometimes the younger, we have less to lose, right? When I was 23 years old, I mean, I didn't have a pot to pee in. So, I mean, what are you going to take from me? I'm either going to be successful or I'm not. And so I think that our risk is a lot bigger than some people that were our parents' ages when they got in. And I think that's probably what scared my dad out a little bit is, right, this was his retirement, right? My dad did a 401k rollover for that initial franchise fee. Right, you take that chunk out of your 401k, and that's scary.
Yeah.
And I understand that. They worked hard to put that money in there for a long time.
Yeah, man.
But when you bootstrap it from the beginning, it's a lot easier to say, hey, we're going to make this work and we're going to bootstrap it. So I think if I were to give advice to people, it would be either, if you truly have a dream to be an entrepreneur, either get involved in a small business, go to work for a franchise or another small business, or jump in and do it right away. If you can get the financing, you're probably going to have somebody help you unless you've been super smart, which a lot of entrepreneurs are in college, and they've got some cash set aside, whether they got rentals or they're doing something else on the side. So I say go for it.
Huge proponent in real estate, by the way. That's my plug. I live by it. Dude, totally inspiring. Thank you for spending this time with us. 18 plus years. I see all the accolades on social media. You guys are crushing it.
Thank you.
Married team with kids. You've set the boundaries. You set the standard. Like, just totally incredible, dude. I'm really glad that I got to be able to have you on the show here.
Yeah, thank you.
And by the way, guys, this podcast wouldn't be made possible without Nathan Marmor and the CertaPro team. Truly, because it sounds like you guys have the team. So
it is.
That's fantastic. Diligent Entertainment, as always, for the podcast here, and then Limitless Healing with Colette Brown. She's got this incredible granola called Newcopia. It's like just incredible. And then, of course, Real Life School. You can find the podcast on our website, reallifeschool.com, social media, but all of our links and bios will be throughout social media. And I hope that you guys were able to see a peek behind the curtain on somebody that's been a successful franchise owner. So stay tuned, guys. We got more podcasts coming up.
I love it.
Take care, guys.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.